7:35. Clerk Brookman, would you please, I think, did we need to do the protocol?
I'll just do a real brief one. So this is a teleconference meeting of the village board. The president will lead the meeting and the board members will be called upon to speak. President Rosick is absent this evening and is excused, so Trustee Stokerbrand will be leading the meeting. Members of the public have been muted and their video turned off. They will have an opportunity to make citizens' comments during citizens' comments if something is not on the agenda tonight. Otherwise, they have the opportunity to raise their hand and discuss during an agenda item if they have any discussion on that topic. And that is it.
Okay, thank you. Would you please call the roll?
Yes. Trustee Amenta.
Here.
Trustee Bockhorst.
Yes.
Trustee Carpenter.
Here.
Trustee Ursink.
Here.
Trustee Stokerbrand.
Here.
Trustee Warren.
Here.
All trustees are present and President Rosick is excused.
Thank you. And again, my apologies for not giving you a time frame for the break between the meetings. I'll get better at this. Has a meeting been publicly noticed?
The meeting has been posted and noticed according to law.
Thank you. We're ready then, I believe, for number 4, special order of business A, Friends of Atwater, I believe it's Beach, foot wash station donation. Is there a staff report to kick this off? Mr. Burkhart.
Thank you, Trustee Stokerbrand. Today with us that I'll introduce is Alicia Domack, who is the president of Friends of Atwater. They contacted us last year, village staff, with the proposal of a donation for a foot wash station at Atwater Park. Working with them, they put together a donation proposal, which went to the Parks Commission last month. The Parks Commission did recommend accepting the donation, and some of those details are outlined in your memo. I'll hand it over to Alicia to give a summary of the foot wash station and some of the reasons why the Friends would like to make this donation. Alicia?
Thanks, Tyler. I guess it was the winter of last year, we did a survey that went out to a bunch of constituents and gathered feedback on what people would want to see at Atwater Beach. And one of the things that came up that we thought was maybe doable was this foot wash station. There's been some issues with the plumbing in the beach house because people wash their feet off in the sinks and in the toilets. And can lead to clogging of those areas. And so we thought that this would be a better option for people that go to the beach. So we do have a grant from the Shorewood Foundation that we will be utilizing for this, as well as some other funds that the Friends of Atwater Beach hold. So are there any questions?
Trustee Ursink.
This is a great idea, and thank you for thank you for this this donation, or considering this donation. Love to know a little bit more logistics, like about the plumbing and how that works, and how you guys plan to get water down to the beach.
So it would actually not be down at the beach. The foot wash station, we worked with Leanne to go through Strand, the engineering firm, to determine the best placement for the foot wash station. And there was concern about putting the plumbing down at the beach level. And then there was also, they gave us 2 options for where to place the foot wash station. One was nearer to the beach house. And then one was up closer to where the bubbler is on the actual park. And there was some concern from the engineering firm and also from the village about the erosion that may occur if we were to place the foot wash station closer to the beach house. So we were all in agreement that it would be fine to place it up closer to the bubbler. We figured that people will be walking up the stairs and going towards the street, and they'll be able to use the foot wash station before they go to their cars or they walk home.
Great, thank you.
Anyone else? Did I see a hand?
I'm Wes.
Warren?
Just a quick question. So, as part of I noticed that the water bottle filling station will also be installed separate from this project. I'm assuming that they're being installed together as opposed to, one then after the other.
I believe that is the case. Yes. I think Tyler, you can.
Yeah, Leanne's on the call, and Leanne would be able to confirm that.
Good evening. So it depends. I would say it's probably not likely that they will be installed on the exact same date. We have the water fountain with the bottle filling feature in storage in the yard. It was delivered late last year. So that'll be installed as soon as weather permits and we're able to turn the water on in the spring. I suspect the foot wash station will take a bit after that.
But I'm sorry, go ahead, Trustee Warren. I think there you go.
Sorry, both of them are, it should be minimal disruption though. Both of them are 1 day like installs. It's not like a long.
No, the foot wash station involves a concrete pad.
That's
So
right.
so that'll be at least several days.
Okay.
But the water bottle filling station will be a 1 day project. Yeah, it's just what it really is it's a new water fountain with a bottle filling feature rather than more of the traditional arc of water that you're used to seeing.
Okay.
And
Thank
was
you.
there something
I think
about
these are a great idea.
a dog dish?
I don't believe that the budget allowed for the purchase of a dog dish on the particular unit we got. But I would have to verify that.
Okay, but there are some plumbing improvements that will be done at the same time. It seemed to me like because we're going to be flushing sand from the foot washing station, there's bigger plumbing infrastructure changes happening. Does that coincide at all with the new bubbler?
No, but that will definitely coincide with the construction of the foot wash station. The wastewater will be pushed to the combined sewer and Lake Drive. But prior to that, it will run through 2 catch basins so that we can catch as much of that sediment as possible before it gets into the sewer line.
Thank you. Trustee Carpenter?
My only question is, it sounded like the reason for having this was to not have residents and people at the beach use the bathrooms and, for rinsing their feet. Is there concern that that's still going to happen since the foot washing station is so much further up the beach? And also sort of twofold, like, what was the erosion discussion for against the placement of having it there?
I can speak to the first question. So it is our hope that that people would see the foot wash station as they were walking towards the beach and hopefully remember that it is there. So they're not utilizing the bathrooms to wash their feet off. Maybe we can even look at, could we put a sign or something?
Yeah, that was what I was saying. Maybe there could be some signage, directing people.
Mhm.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Leanne, you can probably I think that you were the one that had expressed some concern about the erosion that I definitely agreed with. So if you want to share your thoughts.
Sure. The station obviously will be built to catch as much water as possible and cycle it properly out for discharge. The path is tenuous on a good day, and we certainly want to avoid the introduction of any unnecessary water. There is a small storm sewer system that runs along the west side of the pathway, up and down the bluff. But our staff engineer agreed that if we didn't need to introduce water into that area, we should certainly do everything we can to avoid that. And so it was really the consensus of all that situating the foot wash station at the top level and allowing us for a clear discharge of that water west toward Lake Drive would really eliminate any possibility of water damage to the pathway and the bluff itself.
Okay, thank you. Any
Yeah.
other questions?
No, I just was
Comments?
gonna say it's just the idea of signs, on the bathrooms, reminding people about the foot washing station. I think might help, fingers crossed, remind residents and people to go use the right way to get rid of their sandy feet. I think could be helpful.
I agree. I think because it's going to be close to the drinking fountain, as people walk by, they may not actually see it. And so a sign as you come up the steps on the beach house / bunker, a big sign that says foot washing station on Lake Drive would be a great idea. It's probably an important part of the success of it. Trustee, did I see Trustee Amenta?
Yeah, I just, in the packet, there's a picture of a shower and foot washing station, or just the foot. Is it determined it's just the foot washing, or is it possible that it might be the shower too?
It's not going to be a shower. It'll just be a foot washing station.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, is there anyone? I would entertain a motion.
Yeah, I'll
Trustee
move to
Burke.
accept the Friends of Atwater donation for a foot wash station in the middle of Atwater Park.
Second,
A second from Trustee Carpenter. Any further discussion? I was wondering, did we have any idea about maintenance is pretty much just like for the drinking fountain? Is that what we anticipate here? We flush the lines out anyway when we take the drinking fountain out.
Correct. It'll be
They'll be
similar.
right next to each other, so maintenance wise, it should be, and they're both durable.
Right.
Frame.
Minimal.
Okay. Any other discussion before we vote? Okay, Clerk Bruckman, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Warren,
Aye.
Trustee Bachhorst,
Yes.
Trustee Amenta,
Aye.
Trustee Ursink,
Aye.
Trustee Carpenter,
aye.
Trustee Stokebrand.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you to the Friends of Atwater Beach for bringing this forward, and to the Shorewood Foundation for the funding.
Thank
A
you.
wonderful amenity for the village. I guess, do we want to make clear anything about signage? Is that something the village could do, or how would that piece be completed?
I'd be happy just to follow up with Alicia and the Friends, and then also just Leanne and DPW as well to moderate that. I mean, if it's signage that, probably with right now what's going on at DPW, I could look at some possible signs through an outside company that we could also put up, but I'll take a look at our sign inventory and see what places would make most sense.
I would think right when you come up the steps, if the first thing you see is foot washing station available on Lake Drive, something like that. And please don't
Okay.
use the restrooms, something to that
Okay.
effect. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Okay, moving on to number 5, the consent agenda.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Motion by Trustee Amenta, seconded by Trustee Warren. And is there anybody that wants to pull anything? No? Okay, Clerk Bruckman?
Trustee Stokebrand,
Aye.
Trustee Amenta,
Aye.
Trustee Ursink,
Aye.
Trustee Warren,
Aye.
Trustee Bachhorst,
Yes.
Trustee Carpenter.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. Nothing was removed. Item 7, no public hearings tonight. Number 8, citizens to be heard. Anyone, Clerk Bruckman?
No one has registered ahead of time, so if there's anybody that would like to speak at this time, if you could either raise your virtual hand or unmute yourself and state your name and address.
Okay, seeing none, We'll move on to number 9, new business. A, consider resolution 2021-05, suspending outdoor seating and parklet special privilege application and monthly installation fees. Do we have an IC Director Bart?
Sure. I'd be happy to do a brief introduction to what was in the memo. As you're aware, last year, COVID hit just as we were getting ready to install parklets and outdoor seating. And so last year, all applicants actually paid application fees because that's done in January and February. But then the board provided direction to suspend collection of monthly fees for parklets. And so we're at that stage again in the annual calendar where I would send out invitations to businesses who would like to install outdoor seating and or parklets. I'm seeking direction tonight as to whether or not the board wants to maintain the previous direction to suspend those fees for this year. The fee last year was specifically sunsetted at November 15th. And so currently the fee schedule is in place. So if the board would like to suspend either application or monthly fees, I'd be seeking that direction tonight because invitations do go out this week for consideration in March.
Oh,
Okay, thank you. Trustee Ursink,
Just like to make a motion.
go ahead.
I'll make a motion to suspend fees on, suspend fees for resolution 2021-05 regarding outdoor seating and parklet special privilege application and monthly installation fees.
second that.
We have a motion by Trustee Ursink and a second by Trustee Warren. Discussion? Trustee Amenta?
So did we extend this? So the permit starts March 15th, correct?
Correct.
And did we extend the end date last year, like through November or something?
Yeah, so they all expired on November 15th, but the board did extend those through March 15th of this year. So all the current installations will technically expire by March 15th. If they want to come back for next year, they would need reapproval.
So, okay, so the approval is going to be through November 15th again then.
Correct.
Okay. And I had a budget question. I know we've gotten CARES Act funding for various COVID type things. Do we have, is that like general purpose revenue that could be used to make up this difference? And it seems like we've been able to offset this kind of thing with CARES Act funding. And I just was wondering if we would have some of that available to make up this difference.
I don't have an answer for you on that. I don't know if Becky does either. This is not an expense. It's just it's a missed revenue, I suppose. So I don't think it would qualify. But I can definitely follow up with Mark to get an answer to that question.
And I think the general feeling then is this is sort of an act of benevolence due to COVID and how the restaurant businesses are suffering, right?
Correct.
Trustee Bockhorst?
Thank you. So I wanted to thank you for bringing this to us, Bart, and also to thank everyone here. I know parklets have been a big discussion in the past, and I want to congratulate and thank all those that worked with me in the past on bringing the parklets to Shorewood. None of us would have known that the pandemic was coming, but this is another good example of taking a risk, even with a lot of public opposition and doing the right thing for the business community. So I'm happy to see this here, and I'm happy that we're also going forward with this. Also, I know that we did at one point discuss revisiting the loans and the grants to businesses. So I know this isn't the time for that discussion, but just want to keep that on everyone's radar as well. Thank you.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second. Trust Clerk Beckman?
Nope.
Trustee Carpenter,
Aye.
Trustee Menta,
Aye.
Trustee Bockhorst,
Yes.
Trustee Stokebrand,
Aye.
Trustee Ursink.
Aye.
Trustee Warren.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. Moving on to 9B, consider police station tank removal and parking lot replacement. I see Chief Nimmer is on the call. I don't know if this is more DPW or police or a combination of the two.
Yeah, I mean, I can kick it off. So the memo in your packet discusses the replacement of the south parking lot and the tank removal that is in that area. And from my recollection of when we purchased the building, the discussion at the time was when we replaced the parking lot is when we would deal with the tank that was there from the prior owners or prior owner before that. And so in your packets, there's the environmental studies and then some estimates on the parking lot. So if you chose to do this now or you choose to do it later, the process will be the same as far as the tank removal and the replacement of the parking lot. I believe the reason we're bringing it to you now is because there is some funding available from the bonds. I know there's some discussion about that and you guys will have to discuss that, but there is, I think, $74,000 left over from the building renovation from phase 2B. And so I was asked to bring this forward as an opportunity to use that funding, but that'll be a decision that you'll have to make. I'll open it up to any questions if you have any specifics about the parking lot or the tank, the best I can. If you have questions about bonds or funding, I'll have to defer that to Rebecca.
I have a question for the chief. So what's left once we do the tank removal and the parking lot? What's left to complete the police station?
That will be it. And I think it begs the question that the parking lot was never anticipated to be a part of the project. I think it was anticipated that the parking lot would last a little bit longer. And so all the discussions that we had about the police department never really related to the parking lot. So I just want to point that out. It's not as if it's another piece to the renovation, but as you'll see from the pictures, it just, for whatever reason, just got beat up. And with the plow going through there, you'll see those potholes. But so that's that. But that being said, Trustee Stoltenbrand, that would be the last piece of that property.
Was there something about a meeting space though?
There's the, correct, if the village decided to do the community room down the road, there is the space in the PD right now. And we just use that right now for training.
Okay, and I'm assuming that would be a pretty small ticket item.
Actually, it's a lot more expensive than you think to do the community room.
Okay. In what way? Just generally speaking.
Just generally speaking, it's certainly more than the 74,000.
Do we
If I recall, Chief, I believe that because of the additional individuals that were going to be utilizing the space, that there were additional regulations that related to sprinkler heads that had to go back there. I think that was the issue, if I recall from back
Yeah, thank you for reminding me of that. Yeah, so so the renovation itself isn't the issue. I mean, there's some expense, of course, to do some things there, but it would change the zoning of the building from, don't quote, whatever it is now to a gathering or something, and that would change the entire building. So there would have to be work to be done to be able to change the actual code of the building. I think that's it.
Okay, I did have two other questions that I think are probably more appropriately directed to Director Leanne about green infrastructure possibilities here and we have given you authorized hiring a construction manager, and I see construction management as part of this contract.
I'm sorry, what is the specific question?
Is there any green infrastructure possible in this parking lot? And the second one was about construction management. Since we just we're hiring a construction manager. Could that take care of, I think it's $5,000 to $8,000 for construction management here?
There's always opportunities for green infrastructure. I can't give you any specific information because no engineering evaluation of the lot or the area has been done to this point. As it relates to the construction manager, That really depends on the timeline and the timetable. We pretty much have the time of this person spoken for 2021, when and if they come on board. So it has not been included in our work plan, our department work plan.
Trustee Amenta?
I'm confused why this wasn't in the long range plan and why this wasn't discussed, unless I'm forgetting. This hasn't been discussed as a capital project in our budget discussions.
Is there any staff feedback on why it was not in the long-range financial plan?
My understanding from when coming to the village is that this was not included within the renovation of the police station, and that the board, as Chief Nimber had said, the board had anticipated that the duration of the parking lot and its state would have lasted longer than the current state. And unless there's something else that any other staff member would like to add, that was my understanding.
Well, it sounds like it's time sensitive because of the bond, right? The bonding.
I mean, I know we got something from bond counsel, but I've never known a bond issue that when we had surplus bond proceeds because of project that there was no other place to put that money, that money had to stay on that. I mean, it just seems, I've never encountered that before. I'm going to vote no on this because we've spent a ton of money on this building. I recognize that there are some potholes in the parking lot, but luckily we have a $750,000 garage. So no one's having to park there. They just have to drive through it. And because we have a capital planning, we have a process that board members have been working on for several years in order for us to have a comprehensive understanding of what our capital needs are, and that dovetails into our long-range financial plan. And so I don't think it's wise for us to be discussing, capital projects that come outside of that process. Just like prioritization, we don't do things unless they're all discussed in prioritization and gone through that whole process and got on the list. Those are the only things we're allowed to talk about. I think we need to have a similar discipline when it comes to capital projects.
Thank you, Trustee Bockhorst.
Thank you. I'm going to vote yes on this. I also disagree with what Trustee Menta said. First and foremost, government doesn't just stop on prioritization nor on when we do long range financial planning, et cetera. We all knew that construction costs were variable in this and that things came up later on that we were unaware of. And as well as prioritization, I know that's not what this is agenda sized for, but we move to do items of future consideration all the time. Anyway, so I move, do we have a motion already? If not, I'd like to make one.
No, we do not.
Okay, I don't have the agenda in front of me, so I move to approve, and I don't know, is this by ordinance or is this?
It's on the page 41 of the packet.
Yeah, my other computer died, so I don't have my packet in front of me. That's why I'm asking. I don't have the motion in front of me.
Is there someone else who would like to make the motion?
Well, I'll still make the motion, whatever it is. So moved.
I'll second it.
Trustee Carpenter?
Thank you. I had a question about, well, a couple of questions. One is about the cost of the removal of the tank. It appears that on further inspection, it's more than 3 times the original price of what it was supposed to be to remove the tank. How did that happen? That it went from I think original pricing in the sale documents was like 5,500, something like that. And now it looks like it'll be about 16,000 to remove the tank.
I'll try to answer that, but I was not privy to those discussions between the village and the property owner. But from what we were told, Rebecca and I contacted the realtor or the attorney for the realtor, or whatever he was. And he indicated that the $5,000 was half of the cost to have the site closed, which if you look in the packet, the DNR costs to close the site were $10,000 X dollars. And so it appears that the $5,000 off the sales price was half of that cost. The other $16,000 is the actual removal of the tank itself. Now, why that wasn't compensated back then, I don't have the answer to that. But that's what that $5,500 was for the half cost of the site closure, if that answers the question.
Yeah, and then I did just have two other questions. So all of the squad cars are parked in that garage. Is this the section that the squad cars need to drive through to get to the garage?
Correct. The parking lot is on the south side of the building, and the overhead door is on the southwest corner. And that parking lot runs along the south side of the building and then onto Morris. And the tank actually sits in front of the garage door, is where the tank is located. And so that entire area, that hole would be dug and the tank removed and replaced. And then the entire parking lot from Morris back to the garage door would be replaced. And that's what the costs are listed in the packet for that entire area.
Do you mean Wilson?
Am I saying Morris? I'm sorry, Wilson.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I was confused.
That's a really long driveway. So.
I was like, wow, isn't that the bike trail? Is that Morris?
Okay, and then if we use, like, what are our options? And maybe this is more of a Rebecca question. If we do not do this, what are our options for the bond proceeds from the remaining bond proceeds?
They would revert to going back and paying down on the bonds.
Okay.
And then this project would be, then could we move it to long range financial planning?
Yes. Yep. You have the option to do that. We're as staff, we're comfortable moving forward in whatever way the board wants to go. We just knew that we wanted to make you aware of what your options were, so that you could make an informed decision and then provide us with direction.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the board?
Sorry, I had one other question.
Trustee Carpenter?
Thank you. Could we make some small repairs to the potholes that are there and then move the project to long-range financial plan?
I'm gonna, if hopefully, Leanne, are you listening? Yeah, I'll defer to her on what the possibilities are there.
I think that the condition of this parking lot is well beyond small repairs. In order to make any type of meaningful repair to this, we're talking very large areas, somewhat akin to approaching, very significant percentages of the lot. So I would say, other than us making some attempt to just throw a patch into the worst of the potholes, no, that it is, the condition is too far gone for that.
And so would you break this up down to the roadbed level and then just, would it be asphalt again? Do we not know?
That's the proposal. That's what my understanding is. That's what the cost estimate is based on. Yes.
And then we don't know about green infrastructure.
That cost estimate does not include any green infrastructure options. Like I said, we haven't done that evaluation at this point.
Trustee Amenta?
So is this proposal including an engineering estimate?
Yes.
And so presumably the engineering estimate could advise on green infrastructure?
I think so. Leanne?
No,
Shaking
the,
her head.
no, the scope that you have is strictly parking lot. It would not include any evaluation of green infrastructure. That could certainly be done, but it could not be done for the dollar amounts that are included in your packet. That would have to be in addition.
So the $8,000 to $10,000 engineering fee is not just for a parking lot, it's for the removal of the tank? Or does it cost $8,000 to $10,000 to engineer a parking lot?
It's the engineering of the parking lot plus the production of bidding documents and the actual bidding process.
Thank you.
I mean, I would propose that we incorporate this into the long-range financial plan and include it in next year's borrowing, as so we can at least look at green infrastructure and, you know, go through our regular process with it.
Well, and then perhaps our new construction manager would be available to work on the project in 2022. I guess we have a motion and a second, so we should, could you please reread the motion, Clerk Bruckman? And then we'll take a vote.
Yep. Motion is to approve the replacement of the police department south parking lot, the removal of the underground storage tank, and the closure of the site.
Please call the roll.
Trustee Menta,
No.
Trustee Stokebrand,
No.
Trustee Warren,
Aye.
Trustee Bachhorst,
Yes.
Trustee Carpenter,
No.
Trustee Ursink.
Yes.
Motion fails 3-3.
Okay, moving on to 9C, consider Hubbard Park.
Make another motion.
Sure.
Okay, how about, I don't know really how to put this, so Nathan, you might have to help me with this. I would just like to tweak the existing motion slightly and include a follow-up discussion in the next long-range plan. And the reason I'm doing this is because you guys heard from DPW staff that this needs to be done, and now you're going to punt this to another year. Like, I guess we can always bring this up at the next board meeting. I don't know what the time sensitivity is around this, but I like how we have all of a sudden 3 engineers on this board and parking lots professionals here that are trustees. So I would love to know why you guys voted against this. But in the absence of that, Nathan, is there a way to make this motion similar to the last and give maybe our other fellow trustees an opportunity to vote the correct way?
You know, I think the vote stands. You know, those of us who talked about we explained our decisions. Trustee Bayer, if you would like to respond to Attorney Bayer, if you would like to respond to Trustee Bachhorst, but I think everyone has the right to make a vote and explain their positions, and then we have to move on. But Attorney Bayer, if you would like.
Almost got a promotion there. Right? Yeah, I really don't. I mean, I can't formulate a proposed motion for anybody. So you know, if there's other discussion on that specific agenda item as noticed, maybe there will be, but other than that, I really don't have anything. I can't really add anything.
Okay, well, I'll withdraw my consideration for the motion then, but I will say that maybe one of the 3 would like to reconsider their vote. Thank you.
I think we did make it clear, the people that weren't on the opposing the motion, that we did want to see it in the long-range financial plan. So I think everyone is aware of that. So moving on to we're on 9C, Hubbard Park Design Engineering Contract. Is this Leanne again also?
Yes, it is. More parking lots. Recall that in December of 2020, we issued an engineering design request for proposal for the Hubbard Park parking lot. That RFP did clearly spell out the scope and the evaluation criteria and the weighting of those criteria. We received a total of 9 responses. Staff rated those responses based on the approved criteria, and you will find that cumulative ranking scoring in your packet. Of the 9 proposals, based on the staff scoring and ranking. The proposal submitted by SEH received the top score. That was a weighted 7.8. There were two other proposals, very similar in score, from Yankee and K Singh. Those each scored a 7.5. So staff, based on that ranking and the criteria in the approved RFP, is submitting this to you for consideration of SEH. There is a motion in the memo. If you would choose to, if you would choose a different consultant, you just would need to obviously substitute name and amount within the motion.
Thank you, Director Butchlick. Is there any, I see Trustee Carpenter, you have a question?
I do. I just have a question about the Janky and Janky, and then K Singh. I think those are how you pronounce those two firms. I'm assuming 2T means that they're tied for a
Yes.
second. Okay. So it appears that the K Singh firm, their fee obviously was the lowest. Why was their fee so low? And what is
I
not
can't answer
included?
that. I can't answer that question. That's the fee that they submitted. Their hours are significantly less than the other two firms mentioned. So certainly that plays in. But in terms of their thought process, I apologize, but there's no way that I can answer that.
Okay. I mean, it just for that, for those two to be tied for a second, second option, if you will, but it's such a dramatic difference in price.
But please
difference in
recall that
hours.
please recall cost is only 25% of the total ranking. The
Oh yeah,
criteria were approved by the village board in the RFP, and they are listed in the memo, and cost was 25%.
Oh yeah, no, I'm aware. I just wasn't, I wasn't there, and so I just wanted to see if, what other, what other feedback you had regarding those two firms.
Sure. If you take a look at the ranking sheet, SEH scored the highest, clearly, based on the quality and completeness of the proposal and their approach. I know it was a lot of material and not a lot of time, but if you had any opportunity just to kind of page through or scroll through the RFPs, or excuse me, the proposals, their proposal was outstanding, and it was in staff's opinion, kind of quite a bit above the rest of the submissions. They also scored very well on similar projects. The project examples that they listed were very applicable to the area that we're looking at, and many of those ideas seem to be, as I said, very applicable to that area. They also had presented a team with excellent qualifications, experience, and diversity, which is one of the criteria. And so they did not rank as well on cost, obviously, as some of the other firms, but being the other criteria, that 75% really kicked that score up. And Yankee had very similar in terms of how their rankings came into play. Kapoor's proposal was very good. Their cost obviously was excellent in comparison to the rest. But with the way the criteria were weighted, that this is mathematically how we reach those scores.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Ursink?
Could you talk about if any one of these firms has more experience with green infrastructure? I see it's highlighted in the SEH proposal, but Yankee and Yankee, K-Sang, Sigma, do you know if any of the other companies have experience with the green infrastructure and kind of what we're hoping for?
They all have green infrastructure experience. This is kind of, it's commonplace today, where maybe we talked 5 or 10 years ago. Certainly there were specialists in the area, and please don't misunderstand me. There are still firms who have people who specialize and are dedicated to green infrastructure, that being the bulk of the work they do. But each one of these firms has personnel and experience with the different green infrastructure installations.
Thank you.
And do any one of these stick out beyond that, beyond what they're ranked right now? Does anyone rank higher in that?
No, I mean, I think the ranking pretty much speaks for
Great.
itself.
Thank you.
Trustee Amenta?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the question is, they all have good qualifications, and I did you send out the proposals? Everyone seems to have seen them, but I don't remember seeing them.
It was approved by the village board at its.
But the responses from all these consultants, did we
It's
have
a link. It's a
What?
link, and it's links in the packet on their name.
Oh, I see.
They're hyperlinks.
Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't,
223.
I didn't think to do that. Okay, but I mean, I guess the question is, there is a sizable cost difference, and I guess the question is I mean, I know mathematically this is how it all worked out, but I mean, is the difference between SEH and Sing, for example, really worth $24,000? Is the difference worth that amount in your mind?
If you're going purely based on hours, which the proposals are based on hours, I would say very likely. SEH has nearly double the hours that K-Sing does for, I mean, it's more than double the cost, but there's quite a variation in hours. So that does make it a little bit more difficult to do an apples to apples comparison.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Warren? Trustee Warren, are you?
Yeah, no, I'm back. So I'm kind of curious. Sorry, I was out for about 10 seconds, but I think I'm curious as to whether, so Sing is at 171 hours. Are they capped at that? Or if say they decide midway through, like, no, we really need 300, could we end up just paying more anyways? And the reason I ask is I'm my inclination is to go with SEH, looking at the rankings and looking at, the work you put in to categorize and the different weights that we applied. But I'm just kind of curious as to whether that 171 hours might be a little bit of a mirage, and like, even if we went that way, we'd end up paying more.
That would be possible, but that would only be done or allowed based on your authorization. This would be a not to exceed contract. So any additional hours or changes to the scope that would push that price or those hours over the approved scope would require an amendment to the contract or to the services agreement, and that would require board approval.
Okay, thank you. I'm prepared to make a motion. I move approval of a design engineering services agreement for the Hubbard Park parking lot with Yankee and Yankee in the amount of $29,530. Is there a second? Seeing none.
Second.
Oh, a second from Trustee Carpenter.
Mhm.
Is there any more discussion? Trustee Amenta?
Sorry, I just said I would second it.
Oh, okay. So we have a motion and a second. Is there more discussion? Trustee Bockhorst?
Thank you. I'm going to vote no. I'm going to go with the recommendation from from the DPW, and also just noting that the cost difference is not that much. So I'm not sure why we would deviate, just to save a little tiny bit of change.
Any other comments? Trustee Ursink?
It's more of a timing question. Leanne, when is, can you remind me the timing of this again?
Sure. Initially, the long-range plan identified this for construction in 2021. In all practical purposes, that is not going to be feasible given where we are and the engineering involved. And that also puts us into Russ Davis's most critical wedding season for construction. And he's asked us to consider that as we set the construction schedule. So in reality, it really works out best for everyone if this is an early spring construction in 2022.
Okay, I bring that up because I know that River Park is going to be, that parking lot is going to be out of commission during that time as well. So you're going to be looking at a lot of soccer and little league families looking to park somewhere, and they'd be looking to park in that parking lot potentially. So that would be another parking lot that would be out of commission during that time.
Right. So we would be looking at getting in there as early as possible in the spring. So hopefully it would be an April to mid to late May construction timeframe, and then we'd be out.
Thank you.
If all goes well.
Go ahead.
I just, it's certainly the board's prerogative to select a consultant as it wishes. I have no, I just would ask you to consider as you make these deliberations and make an ultimate recommendation that the approved RFP included very specific criteria with weightings. And I would just ask that we consider and caution that you be careful about the message that we may be sending to prospective engineering consultants if in fact we deviate from those approved criteria in the selection of the consultant.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you. Duly noted. Any other comments? Trustee Amenta?
Yeah, I'm in the past, we've had a trustee, like we would have had Trustee Warren as the Public Works Director sit in on the this decision-making process. So there's someone, from the board and someone from outside the department, perhaps, who's involved in this decision. I guess this is a question for Rebecca. Are we no longer involving the board in evaluation of proposals, or what are we doing? I mean, why was Trustee Warren not included in this recommendation, this decision?
Director Bushlick was intending to take this to the Public Works Standing Committee. And because our time was taken up otherwise tonight with some of this, the other information presentation and open records, that did not occur, but Trustee Warren was consulted with Leanne prior to listing it on this agenda. And from my understanding, it was determined that it was okay to move forward to the board at this time.
No, my question is during the process of after the RFP goes out and we get proposals in the past. For example, I sat when we picked the auditor, right? I was you, me, Mark, sat and talked about who the auditor should be. So I guess I'm asking, I mean, it's just something we normally do, but maybe we don't do it for every single, I mean, I know we don't do it for construction contracts, but those we have to kind of give to lowest bidder. So I guess my question is, was it considered to have Trustee Warren sit on the panel that did the evaluation of the proposals?
Leanne, I can't recall what the initial memo contemplated, or if the chair of the standing committee was included in that.
It did not. We have not typically done that for projects of this size. Typically, we have done that for larger engineering projects. But it was not contemplated for this particular project. As mentioned, it was intended that the recommendation would go to Public Works Committee, and the Public Works Committee could then, we could do a further review in committee, and then they could make their own recommendation coming out of committee. But for scheduling reasons, that did not work.
There's some time sensitivity here too, Leanne, right?
There's time sensitivity in the sense that there are a handful of grant opportunities that may be available, additional grant opportunities that may be available for this parking lot. One of the applications, I believe, is due in February. Another is due in March. So in order to have any reasonable shot at submitting a complete application, we really would need to have an engineer on board.
And that's why I wanted it that's why I agreed to have it fast tracked, or wanted it fast tracked, because I wanted to be able to try to take advantage of those opportunities.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions from board members? I will say that I just felt that for the dollar difference, a 0.3 difference in the cumulative staff score was enough that I felt that it warranted looking at the two-tie number, because based on the amount of work and the hours and the price and the rating. Okay, Clerk Bruckman, would you please? Is there another trustee Bockhorst?
Thank you. So yeah, I mean, I appreciate the work that you put into this, Leanne. I know this is a small dollar contract. I heard what you said as the DPW professional, that if we have this criteria and this ranking schedule, and we put this out and we're looking for specific things, then the rest of us on this board should be cautious when we're nickel and diming over just, you didn't use those words or that inference, but that if we have this and you know the project and you know what you're looking for, and this is small, then I would say that this is a time that we listen to our DPW staff. This is a low dollar item. And I understand Trustee Stokebrand was not part of the discussions, nor part of the process, nor works for the department. And I get it, you want to save some money. But this is a time of saying we repeatedly, over and over, disregard the Leanne Bushelick's recommendations on this for DPW for a variety of things. I'm not sure that saving a couple dollars, it doesn't sound like that's what she wants, and it's a lower dollar amount. And anyway, so I will be voting no. I hope that at least 2 others will vote that way as well. Thank you.
Okay, Trustee Amenta.
I really see no need to personalize this. It doesn't have anything to do with Leanne. There's no conspiracy against Leanne. There's this is a narrative that is continually brought up, and it just isn't true. I've worked with Leanne now for almost 2 terms, and I have tremendous respect for her and for her department and the work they do. So I do not abide at all by any implication that there's any criticism of Leanne or the DPW in the board making a decision on which consultant to hire. Thanks.
Okay, if there's no further comments, could we please call the roll on this? Clerk Bruckman?
This would be to approve the design engineering services agreement for Hubbard Park parking lot with Yankee and Yankee in the total of $29,530. Trustee Bockhorst.
No.
Trustee Ursing.
No.
Trustee Carpenter.
Yes.
Trustee Stokebrand.
Yes.
Trustee Amenta.
Yes.
Trustee Warren.
No.
Motion fails 3-3.
Okay, you said that this was something that will be happening in 2022. I think we probably, I would entertain another motion. I think if this doesn't do any good to come back at another meeting, we have another year, but is there another trustee that would like to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the recommended vendor, SEH.
And is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second, motion made by trustee Ursing, seconded by trustee Warren. Any further discussion?
Yep. So Leanne, what you're saying is we could be leaving money on the table if we don't file for these grants? Or we could lose out on potential money by not applying for these grants in the next month or two?
There's that potential. There is the potential that we would have opportunities if those opportunities exist early next year to also apply. If in fact the construction is scheduled for the early spring of 2022. It's likely that there will be similar or other opportunities, but for the opportunities that exist currently, we do have deadlines fast approaching.
That's great. So I'm sure it'd be helpful for you to know sooner rather than later. Okay, thank you.
Any further comments? Okay, Clerk Buckman, would you please call the roll?
Yep, so this is to approve engineering services with SEH in the total of $37,294. Trustee Ursink.
Yes.
Trustee Stokebrand.
No.
Trustee Menta.
No.
Trustee Warren.
Aye.
Trustee Carpenter.
Aye.
Trustee Bachhorst.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-2.
Okay, thank you. Moving on then to 9D, revised schedule for water meter replacement program.
You'll recall that in spring, March to be exact, of 2020, AMI and the water meter replacement was one of the many things that was put on hold due to COVID. We are now back in front of you. That there was no timeline put on that. It was considered to be an indefinite hold. But there's a couple of reasons that we're looking for some board direction on this item. The first is that the Wisconsin Public Service Commission requires a construction authorization for the installation of the AMI infrastructure, excuse me. And that construction authorization expires on August 7th of 2021, which means we need to have this project underway prior to that time or the authorization will expire. If there is no intent to start the project prior to that date, we need to refile and request a new construction authorization. Secondly, we have received a follow-up notice of non-compliance from the Department of Natural Resources for the village's out of date, out of schedule cross-connection inspection program. You may recall that we have for several years been out of compliance with that program. The intent has always been to implement that with the meter installations. It is an indwelling inspection that must be completed. And the time of water installation is actually very most perfect time to do that. We had included that in our request for proposals to meter installation vendors. So that was part of the approved cost of the program. We need to, well, I should say we need, I've been told in verbal conversations with DNR staff that if we do not set some sort of a firm date related to implementation of that cross-connection program, they will begin pursuing enforcement orders. That's generally done through the Department of Justice, and we risk enforcement actions up to including fines. They don't want that. We don't want that. I think really what they're looking for is for us to make a demonstrated commitment that that project is going to move forward, and we are going to make efforts to comply with PSC and DNR regulations.
Trustee Warren?
You're on mute.
Sorry about that. Leanne, I want to be real clear about this as we think through this, and especially in the COVID environment that we're in. So if we authorize this tonight with water, with the replacement beginning on August 2nd, early August date, to be clear, nobody will be in anyone's home prior to that date. I'm concerned, I'm obviously concerned that many people are still very sensitive about people coming into their homes, want to reduce that and limit that as much as possible. And I'm hopeful that we're at least beginning to see the other side by August, but I don't want to, start having people go into homes right away.
Agreed. Our target date for the first residential meter change out, I mean, we will likely begin the commercials prior to that point, because that's really a different animal. But we would be targeting August 2nd, which I believe is a Monday, for the first appointments for meter change outs.
Okay. So nobody's in any homes prior to August 2nd.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And about how long would you anticipate an average home interior period would be? Is it like 20 minutes?
It's probably a little longer than that. I guess I think probably a reasonable range would be a half hour to maybe 45, 50 minutes or so. I think
And
in
it's generally
reality,
not in a living, is it generally not in a living space? Most homes here have basements.
Right. I would say 99+% of water meters are located in basements. There are some on Lake Drive and some of the larger homes that are located in vaults or pits outside the house. But for the vast majority of residents, the meters are located in basements. Which is where the actual cross connection inspection is done also, is in some of the basement infrastructure.
Okay, Trustee Ursing first and then Trustee Warren.
Can I had a follow? Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I wanted to just follow up, and these appointments aren't like, there's not going to be a lot of conversation. They just need to go in, take a look, record what they record, and can walk back out. They don't need to go back and forth with the homeowner or advise them of anything. It's very much just an in and out.
There are some leave behinds related to the cross connection program. There may be some questions that would need to be asked, but we will certainly kind of retool that to make sure that there is as little contact as possible, and that it is, if it's necessary, it'll be done very briefly.
Okay, Trustee Ursing.
I'll cede to Trustee Carpenter. She had her hand up first.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks. I appreciate it. Most of my questions are really COVID related, especially in regards to the contact tracing portion. It sounds like, fingers crossed, everybody, all of the inspectors would be vaccinated, hopefully by then. But, if there was anybody who tested positive, how will we know who's been in what house and how we kind of go back through and contact residents?
Yeah, there's a lot of record keeping that goes into this. And certainly the installer's name would be part of that record.
Okay, that makes me feel better. The other question, shoot, I totally blanked my other question for you. Oh, I know.
I'm not going anywhere.
I'm sorry. I know what it was. It was also COVID related. I mean, I think, moving forward with this project makes sense. But the questionnaire that that was indicated, it sort of sounded like a sort of 2-tier questionnaire. And I'm wondering if it's all just one sort of more comprehensive questionnaire every day. And I don't know if that's the vendor's questionnaire, if that's our questionnaire. It was in the packet.
Yeah, that's the vendor's questionnaire.
Okay.
We certainly have the ability to have input into that. And that would definitely be something, I would ask Anne just to review.
Okay, that'd be great.
It wasn't something I really had the opportunity within the last couple of weeks to spend any time with her on, right, you know, but certainly that would be our intent over the next couple of months.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I think like the second sort of tier of that questionnaire should really be like the first tier, like
Okay.
answer all those questions about how you're feeling and who you've been in contact with and if you traveled, et cetera. You know, just so we have all of that knowledge if God forbid there is, you know, some exposure. So, but thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. I think it was trustee Ursink and then trustee Amenta.
And just to be clear, we're going to mandate, I guess, the DW, the employees to wear masks when they go in homes and be as safe as possible, correct? That's going to
Yes.
be that's the plan.
Yep.
Okay, I'll finish trustee Ursink, then I'll go on to trustee Amenta.
So the people who would be going in are our vendors' employees, right? They're not village employees.
That is correct.
I mean, I know we already have an agreement with them, but I think rather than this questionnaire, we should be asking them if we can arrange with North Shore Health for them to be vaccinated, and that they cannot. And I mean, I don't really want someone saying I don't want a vaccine, but I'm going to go into people's houses. You know, like I think we should require them to be vaccinated if at all possible, and we should also require weekly testing.
It is our recommendation that they be vaccinated. Vanguard is located out of, I apologize, either Tennessee or Kentucky, somewhere in that region of the country. So it really, I don't know that it would be practical for them, for North Shore to vaccinate them. But that is certainly something that we will have conversations with them about. They are in the process. They are actively installing in 3 communities right now, and I think are ramping up on another 3 within the next couple of weeks. So, you know, I'm certain that they will have good experience and many opportunities for those types of things prior to their work in Shorewood. But we will continue to have that conversation. And yes, that is vaccination is most definitely going to be a conversation that we have.
But I mean, if one of their employees says, I don't want to get, I mean, well, we have the ability to say, you know, Jim Bob here does not want to get vaccinated. I mean, that's his right not to get vaccinated, right? But then do we as a village have a right to say, we don't want Jim Bob doing the work in Shorewood, give us somebody else?
I don't know. I don't have the answer to that question. I think that's something legally that we would have to explore.
Because I mean, and I also think, I mean, these questions are, you know, really you need to be testing people like regularly, especially with the rates of people being asymptomatic, especially if we're dealing with a variant that's more contagious. So I do support going ahead with it. I think we should, but I just feel strongly that number one, the testing more than the vaccine. Number one, the testing, like we need to be doing that. And number two, I think if there's, like I've said, if someone refuses a vaccine, that we wouldn't want that person going into our neighbors' houses. I wouldn't want them in my house. So I don't know can you come back to us and report on what your discussions are with the contractor? I mean, I'll make a motion that staff be directed to begin implementation of Shorewood water meter replacement program with residential meter replacement scheduled to begin on August 2nd, 2021. And that staff return prior to that date to report on negotiations. Vanguard is the name of the vendor. I'm sorry, Leanne.
Yep, that's correct.
Is on negotiations with Vanguard regarding staff vaccinations and testing protocols.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and trustee Bockhorst.
Yes, thank you. So I think a lot of you have raised good points around the vaccination, around the virus, around protocol. One thing that we all do have the power as a board at any time, regardless of if this goes forward tonight, is instituting those kind of regulations for any kind of services that happen in Shorewood. So we could amend our ordinance, we could do a variety of things. So I'm glad that this is a report, and I will support this as long as, if I'm clear, you still can proceed and you're just providing us with a report. So, okay, I'm prepared to vote yes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I had a question. So about how many residential households do we have? Like 5,000?
There are about 3,300 meter accounts.
So
that includes residential and commercial.
So how long do they think they'll be doing homes in Shorewood? Is this like a 2-month?
No, I think well.
So I guess my point here is, let's say, the vaccination rate keeps going up. Is there any way to say to people in Shorewood, if everybody in your household has had a vaccine and you're comfortable letting these people in, you know what I'm saying? Could we prioritize the families where they've had the vaccine and put the ones who maybe haven't had the vaccine to the end? How will they choose their households?
Okay, so the installation schedule occurs by what we call meter book. And there are 20 some different meter books that make up all of the customers of the Village of Shorewood. And these books are small geographical areas. And so that's the way the account numbers are assigned. That's geographical, so that the installations will be phased with groups of meter books.
So it sounds like no.
It sounds like what?
Sounds like no. We can't really.
Well, I mean, people can certainly self-select that, but we wouldn't have access to vaccination records. So there's no way we could know that this particular household has been vaccinated.
Right. No, that's what I meant. Like, if there was any way for people to say, I'm fine, you can do me now. And if it takes 2 months to do, obviously in 2 months, there could be a huge difference in the number of people vaccinated in Shorewood, right?
Right. So I think it would be difficult to get people to select in, but people can easily select out.
So that might be an option for planning in the future as we move forward. If someone specifically said, I haven't been vaccinated yet, I want to be at the end of the list.
Yeah, then they would likely either not respond to the appointment request, or they would respond and say, I'm not comfortable doing this now. I want to do it later. And I suspect there will be a significant percentage of households that will feel that way, and I can certainly respect that. You may recall maybe early 2021, late 2019, we had some discussions about ordinances and some of the shut-off processes for people that were non-responsive to this request. I think we're going to have follow-up conversations to that, just to talk about what kind of window we're going to give people in the COVID world. And that window might have been a lot smaller in the pre-COVID world than it will be now. And I think that is certainly understandable, but that's something that, that's obviously a policy, and you all are the policy makers. So that's something we'll be bringing back to you, and we will talk about that prior to installation.
Okay, but you think this is a 2-month period at least that it will take to replace them?
No, I think this is for sure a 6 month.
A 6 month?
Yeah.
Okay. Trustee Carpenter?
If I remember correctly, you had given us like a little sort of diagram.
Yes, a flow chart. Yep.
Well, and like an actual, I'm just remembering this, like in the courtroom, that there was like a, with if we replace the meter, and then if you need to have a plumber, and that is still like, that would still be the protocol. So, if some people may need to have a plumber. So in addition to having the individual with the water meter, like they could potentially then have to have a plumber come into their home as well.
That's possible, but we think that we can get the vast majority of any issues. We'll be utilizing a technique called freezing. So they will actually freeze the water in the meter and in the pipe leading to and from the meter, so that they can pull the meter without water issues. And that's a pretty regular practice in this industry. So we will be utilizing that. And I think the people who have the bad valves, it'll be a pretty small percentage that would need any sort of a private plumbing and activity in order to facilitate the water meter replacement. I think we can do the vast majority of them without that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other trustee comments? Otherwise, we'll get ready to vote. Clerk Bruckman, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Warren,
Aye.
trustee Carpenter,
Aye.
trustee Amenta,
Aye.
trustee Ursink,
Aye.
trustee Bachhorst,
Yes.
trustee Stokebrand.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. Okay, new business 9E. We're from one water problem to another. Leanne.
Yeah. So the village is a member community of the Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewerage District. You all know that. As a member community, we are bound by the rules and regulations of that governing entity. Our village code actually adopts all of their administrative and operational rules by reference. They have made a change to one of their Chapter 3 rules, which relates to prohibited connections within the combined sewer system. So I just want to emphasize that for what we're talking about here tonight, we are talking only the combined sewer system, and that is generally the area east of Oakland Avenue. So this rule change now prohibits the connection of roof drains, gutters, downspouts directly into the combined sewer system. And the deadline for disconnections is January 1st of 2025. There are there are some conditions that would allow for a property to have or to be exempt from that disconnection requirement. Those are outlined in your memo. But what staff is asking for your input and approval on tonight is a plan to implement this downspout disconnection program. We did some preliminary work with Strand. Let me back up just a second. This was presented at the Public Works Committee last week. That seems like way longer than a week ago, but it was last week. So any committee members who want to jump in, if I happen to go over something too fast or I missed something, by all means, please jump in. So we did some work with Strand just to try to get, really to try to figure out the size of the breadbasket, if you will. So picked 4 almost random blocks within the combined sewer area. I say almost random because we made sure that the blocks we were looking at were alleys so that we did not have to access any yards. We could view all the downspout locations either from the street or the alley. And then really got a count of how many on average downspouts were currently connected, how many are currently disconnected. Of the connected downspouts, how many of them could safely be disconnected without damage to property or creating unsafe conditions, and kind of came up with this number, which we then extrapolated over the entire combined sewer service area, and then came up with the estimated numbers that you have in your memo. So the downspout disconnection plan, which was the last document attached to the memo, kind of outlines how we would intend to go about this process. We are looking at dividing the combined sewer service area into 3 phases. In each phase, each property will be evaluated or assessed. Right now, we're proposing that will happen or be done by the yet to be hired construction coordinator with assistance from Shorewood utility staff when workload necessitates. And so there will be an actual assessment of every downspout on every property and a determination of whether any connected downspouts meets the conditions that allow it to be disconnected. Year one of the program would be 2021 this year, and the focus will be almost entirely on education outreach, and that will be education outreach of the entire combined sewer service area. The formal part of that will be, or is proposed to be done by or with the support and resources of the Shorewood Waters Project. Also in partnership with the Conservation Committee. I think they're going to be a great resource for us on, particularly on the outreach side. But we'll be doing targeted mailings, social media campaigns, pretty much everything that we can think of to try to get everybody aware that this project is coming in the combined sewer service area. Also this year, then the construction coordinator in the phase 1 area will do a site assessment for each property. We will document the location of downspouts and their current condition. And then for downspouts that are connected, we'll document whether the terrain or the build out of that particular lot will allow their disconnection. That will all be entered into a database. We will use that information then in early 2022 to send out letters to each of those properties. Those that we believe can be disconnected will include a disconnection notice, and that will come under the authority of the plumbing inspector. We'll ask them to complete that work by the end of the calendar year. And so we'll be working with those 600 properties through 2021. At the same time, in 2021, the construction coordinator and or utility staff will be visiting each of the properties in the phase 2 area and kind of repeating the process. So site evaluations will be done for the disconnection notices that would go out the following year. And so on and so forth. The education outreach will continue through the entire project. The focus of it will just change slightly based on exactly where we are in the program continuum. I'm going to pause, see if there are any questions.
Yeah, I see Trustee Warren has his hand.
Yeah, just to add as chair of DPW, I mean, one of the things that we did, that's a great summary, Leanne, first of all, but second of all, one of the things that I emphasized, and I think the committee emphasized, was that there will be global communications in addition to the targeted communications. I've already received some inquiries from residents as to how this will be accomplished, what the time frame is, what the exceptions are. So even though we're doing it in phases, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, I want to make sure that people in phase 3 also have notice, so we don't let questions fester out there. The other thing that I thought was important was that we have some sort of descriptor of kind of the cost and what you have to do to connect downspouts. From my conversation with Leanne, I got a much better handle on that the last time around. And, it wasn't quite, it's involved, but it's not quite as involved as I thought it was. And I think it's important that we share that with residents, because if I received this notice and had no conception of how I would do this, it would lead to a lot of anxiety. Again, global communications, kind of how you go about it and making sure that people have a lot of lead time were the things that we emphasized at committee.
Yeah, I think it's probably like, I'm sure our village website, you could probably, is it already on there? It probably should be.
It is not, it is not yet, simply because it's a proposed program, it's a draft program. But as soon as we,
tonight.
Yep. So guess what Leanne's doing tomorrow? But yeah, yes, definitely. We'll have a page or pages of the website specifically devoted to this. There'll be links to other resources. MMSD has great resources on this subject. They have a bunch of different videos. Gus Ganorski's in a couple of them, if you're handy and you want to do it yourself. So yeah, there is an awful lot of stuff out there. If there's something that isn't, we think, tailored to Shorewood the way it should be, we will, we'll certainly make sure that happens. But there's very little need here to reinvent the wheel. There's a lot out there. We just need to make sure that we're connecting people to the resources that are there. And yeah, the entire first year is just going to be hard education and outreach. And it will be to every one of the 3 phases, every property in the combined sewer area.
I think it's important too to put the list of exemptions high up, because it will ease a lot of people's concerns right away when you see how many exemptions are allowed. It's a lot, and considering the size of our small lots, it gives a lot of people an out, just because of the way we're built out. Did I see another hand? If you would, anyone else? I'm sorry, go ahead, Leanne, if you had anything further.
I mean, I've had just since our meeting last week, I've had some conversations with staffers at MMSD. They do have a number of programs where if you participate in some of their workshops, you can get reduced cost or free rain barrels. They have lots of other options for reduced cost plants if you're looking at rain gardens. And they've said, you know, that they're certainly willing to work with us and support this effort. Obviously, we're doing it because of them, but and Trustee Stokebrand, just to follow up on a question I believe that you had last week, I did have some conversations related to the ultimate authorization, ultimate responsibility. You know, we talked, the village is the entity to whom the rule applies. So if there are properties that are out of compliance, it is not an issue of the property owner versus MMSD. The village is the authorizing body, so to speak. So those conversations would happen at a village MMSD level. You know, that their staff relayed verbally to me that they're most interested in seeing that we are actively working toward this goal. So they don't plug up the pipes on January 2nd, 2025. As long as we can demonstrate that we're actively working toward this, you know, they're very willing to continue to work with us on any non-compliant downspouts that may still exist on that date.
And because we're responsible for the monitoring with our construction manager and our utility staff, the information about our compliance level is going to come from us. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yep. So we've had some preliminary conversations about how we're going to relay that data in and what format they wanted. And, you know, that's just something that we'll work out on a staff level. But.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Amenta?
When we've had the modeling done of the water and how much water we get in basements with different levels of storm, wind slam, I remember they called those models. Did that include downspout disconnection? So is that included when
so the hydraulic models that we have done for the combined sewer service area include the current level of downspout disconnection. I don't believe it includes any projections related to this Chapter 3 rule.
So, I mean, that's going to be a positive, it's going to help us. It'll make things even better.
Icing on, yep, sprinkles on the icing and all that, yes.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think people, you know, people have a lot of basement issues, so they need to understand this connects to having fewer overflows in their basements.
Absolutely, that is a conversation that Trustee Stokebrand and I had last week too. So you're on the same page.
And so in the motion, are you looking for someone to delineate the chart or just a motion that?
I'm not seeing a motion, am I?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I've written so many motions this.
It just says, please include the recommended motion of possible actions for this agenda item.
And Leanne skipped right over that part, so I apologize. I think really it could be as simple as that you move the approval of the combined sewer service area downspout disconnection program as presented.
So moved.
Second, I'll second.
We have a motion by Trustee Carpenter, seconded by Trustee Warren. Any further discussion? questions or staff? Clerk Bruckman, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Trustee Stokebrand,
Aye.
trustee Ursink,
Aye.
trustee Bachhorst,
Yes.
trustee Menta,
Aye.
trustee Warren,
Aye.
trustee Carpenter.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Okay, thank you, Leanne.
Thank
for
you
all your
very
work.
much.
Thank you for all
Yeah,
your work
thank
on
you.
this.
Thank you, Liam.
Thank you.
Number 10, report of village officials. Village president is absent. Village trustees, anyone have a report tonight? No? Village manager? Manager Ewald?
No report.
Okay. Trustee Amenta?
I wanted to ask if we could have an update on the number of overnight parking permits that have people have requested.
Sure. We're scheduled to, we are compiling data and we're planning and intending to come back with a quarterly review. So we are actively tracking and we'll be bringing it back to you hopefully soon.
Okay. So we can expect something in April?
We're actually hoping to, can you hear me? Oh, I didn't know if I was on mute. We're hoping to compile in March to get, because January was an implementation month and then we wanted to at least to get 2 months and kind of closed at the quarter. So I can verify that date for you and bring that back.
I guess the big question is we've had a big heavy snowfall and it was a big change in our parking regulations and just generally things are going well. We could, any feedback from Leanne or? No, okay.
Oh, sorry. I think it's, it's a little hard to tell. And it's a little bit of chaos right now with the amount of snow that we got. I will say that I think anecdotally anyway, based on the calls that we received today, I think the biggest issue that we've had, and this is a learning curve, is, when there's cars on the street, they tend to get plowed in. And we tend to get a lot of calls from people saying, I need you to come and shovel my car out because you plowed it in. And, the reality of it is that is the risk that you run when you park on the street. And we certainly don't have the capability to go back and dig all of those vehicles up. So, that may be another one of those just education pieces that we can note going forward, just so that people are aware that is not part of the permit deal.
Right. Trustee Bachhorst?
Yeah, thank you for the update and thanks for asking for this, Trustee Menta. So that's probably as common as you've plowed in my driveway. So can you come and shovel it out, or my curb cuts on the corner, which, yeah, this is a record snowfall for us. I think it's the biggest in 10 years. So you guys are doing a great job. I work in Milwaukee, and yeah, all day, all weekend, all day, it's been about snow, among other things. So yeah, like you said, education piece, no one can expect to have their everything free and clear. So anyway, I'm glad to hear it's going well. I'm not the snow, but the
no, no, our crew has done a great job. Just
yeah,
absolutely phenomenal.
I've seen them out several times. So anyway, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Items for future consideration? Anyone? Trustee Bachhorst.
Yeah, so I was really happy to hear tonight a lot of discussion around the COVID-19 and variants vaccine, especially when we're talking about the meter replacements and the securities and measures that we want to place, have in place for our residents and beyond. So I'm not, I know that we had talked, I should have asked this before from Rebecca, but we had made a motion to have Ann from the health department come and give us updates as frequently as possible. I personally don't even think we wait for the health director. We find out how we can get more regular updates and we just get them. Whoever has to present it to the board just does. The fact that we spent about 7 minutes discussing COVID vaccinations during that meter replacement was great. But we really need, it shows that this board is committed to doing better for the pandemic and ensuring that we have the measures in place. So I guess I have two things. One would be to figure out, and I don't know how to do this right now, and maybe I'll come back or maybe I'll just email Rebecca directly this agenda item. But we need to talk about this more and figure out, how to get the information to residents. We talk a lot about transparency and information. So let's find a way to get information out to our residents. What are we doing? And and I see that your hand's up, Rebecca, so I appreciate that. And the second piece is also around this. It's the enforcement piece that we have in our current ordinance. As we saw, the state legislature was playing Russian roulette again with us. And what I mean by that is the fact that the Republicans, it was in the assembly, only voted not to take the mask mandate, the state mandate away, was because there was federal ties to funding for, I forget what it was, food shares or something else, something that would have affected 250,000 residents in the state of Wisconsin, if memory, I think it was 250,000. So fortunately for Shorewood, we just renewed our ordinance, but we did not do anything about the enforcement piece. And I state this because it does tie to the first thing that we just mentioned, or that I just mentioned, that not only vaccination, but we're asking a lot. We're asking DPW to put all these assurances in for contractors and others that are going into homes. And it was a good discussion. There's HIPAA stuff and other things that we danced around intentionally or otherwise. But we don't really have we know this, we don't have an enforcement mechanism in our ordinance. And so if, for example, the statewide mandate were to be lifted, or if there were, businesses, schools, et cetera, that were not complying by our ordinance, I think right now we've been demonstrated that the population in general is doing a good job, but we don't have a way to go to the next level. So I guess I saw Rebecca's hand up before, and also wanted to know, Rebecca, I noticed we only had about 12 complaints overall. So regarding the, I guess complaints in general. So maybe you could also touch on that.
Sure, happy to.
Go ahead, Manager Well.
Wanted to let you know that Ann Christensen is scheduled to come and speak to you on February 15th. So she will anticipate doing so monthly unless you have some other arrangement with her, but she's planning on being here on the 15th. And with regards to the online complaints, things really dipped off. I haven't seen one come through. I haven't checked in a while, even now for this month, because people have just not been submitting them for the last several months through that mechanism. So, I can definitely go back and check again to see if there's one out there, but it has become more of a norm. We'll see what the legislator does, and then maybe we need to adjust somehow, but that's the update that I have for you right now. Thank you.
Okay, again, a follow-up question to that. So Ann Christensen will be coming monthly, you said, or more often if we ask, but she has no requirement to come, right? Based on the fact that she's part of the North Shore Health Department, which is it 6 or 7 municipalities? I forget. 7
in total. Our motion the last time said that we were going to invite her to come. She was not available to be here this evening. She definitely feels it's important to be in good communication with the board and has a desire to do that. So when she's available, she is more than willing to attend and participate. And so we'll look forward to hearing from her on the 15th.
Right. So I guess an item for future consideration, I'm not sure how to phrase this either, would be to evaluate our consolidated service agreements. And this one is particularly timely because I'm not sure how many of the trustees know this, but because our health department is consolidated with other municipalities on the North Shore, we really have very little autonomy over how the health department runs. And you're dealing not just with 7 bosses, but 7 governmental bosses in bureaucracy, and the fact that things need to go through boards and stuff like that. So I'm not saying she's doing a bad job during this pandemic, but we cannot have an enforcement piece in our ordinance. Well, we could have assigned it to the police, but we could not have assigned it to the health department because of the fact that we don't have jurisdiction unilaterally over the health department. We're one of 7, and that would take probably as long as the virus would go, as long as it would take for the virus to go away, to go through the process of getting those kind of, changes made so that we could have quicker and, have more relevant information for our municipality. So I'll just let that slide. I'll let that float or sit for a bit. But I would love, I guess, Rebecca, maybe I just asked you this directly. If you could at some point give us a report on the consolidated services that we have within the village. And it maybe at a future motion, we would look to see if the return on investment has actually been what we've expected, not just financially, of course, but service-wide. Because I do feel that during a pandemic, the fact that we cannot control our own health department really puts us as a local elects in a really tricky spot. And as well as the fact that the state has been, as I mentioned before, they've politicized the whole mask and the whole pandemic has become a very divisive and politicized issue. And as a result, we're kind of tied to their whims, their political whims. And that's not good for our residents or anyone who, comes and does business or sends their kids to school here, et cetera. So, okay, thank you.
Okay, I would just like to say that I think that the North Shore Health Department is doing a lot with a little from my perspective. And I think that their biggest goal right now is to try to get shots in arms. And if that's their focus right now, then that should be, I appreciate that priority. And, if Ann is too busy at this point to come, I certainly understand why. And I think we just, until we get the herd immunity, that's just, we have to do what we can with social distancing and masks, and we've done our part with that. And so we just have to, I personally would contact Representative Bowen and Senator Taylor about transparency about where the vaccines are all going, but that's just me.
Oh yeah, I've done that. I speak to them on the daily, but thank you.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to adjourn then, unless someone has.
Moved.
Second.
Moved by Trustee Bachhorst, seconded by Trustee Carpenter. All in, let's see, you need to call a roll on that?
Really?
No.
You can just do all in favor.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you, everybody.